the segments later. We'll obviously be able to replace. We'll get them very sharp and loaded for you guys later if you want to rewatch. But it looks like the good news is our connection is good when we're talking, so we'll be able to have great conversations today. Also, when we bring in our special guest Caleb Maupin in a little bit as well, we'll be able to have a good discussion with no interruptions. That's my hope right now. So with that, you were able to see some of the stories. I want to get into a couple of these here. The second one, this is the CEO that got assassinated. This was on Wednesday, and it was early Wednesday. They did the investigation. We saw the initial reports. A lot of the media was being very safe with even suggesting what motive might be. Obviously, they're on the lookout trying to find the guy. But we know that this CEO is the CEO of one of the most corrupt healthcare organizations on the planet. What do we mean by corrupt? Well, the first place we'll look is this. This is, and I hope this comes out. I hope we're able to see this chart. This is interesting. I can't even bring this chart up.
Yeah. That was. I put that in the doc, right? So you had that in the doc. Okay, good.
Well, I already converted it to this is interesting. It's not letting me do this. Huh. I'm a little perplexed right now. Let me try that again. Is it not coming up? Are you just seeing the little pinwheel?
I don't know.
There we go. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay. So this is very strange on StreamYard. I'm not happy with this. But anyways, we got the chart. This is United Healthcare, the one on the bottom. That is the guy who was killed is the CEO of United Healthcare, who by percentage of claims that are denied from all insurance companies is by far the highest amount of denial rates by any other major carrier. At 32%, they deny claims. That is double the industry average at 16%. So now, would the mainstream media want to give us this information? No, we have to go find this ourselves. They're going to play it real safe and say, yes, it was clearly a targeted attack, but they're going to leave it open. It might have been something personal about, we hear all these stories about, wives and secret lovers and people going after each other, trying to make it unrelated to the industry that the guy is in charge of. And what we know is 68,000 Americans die because of a failed healthcare system every year, which a guy like this is responsible for. So is it irresponsible then? I'm kind of asking this, Craig, as a rhetorical question, but is it irresponsible for the media not to add that part into the story because it might be, I don't know, validating in some way the fact that we should have expected something like this to happen to somebody that controls so many lives, so they don't want to mention it? Who are they protecting by not mentioning it? I guess that's my concern.
We know who they're protecting. They're protecting their benefactors, right? Their donors. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is what I love when you see a lot of people watching Fox, and you mentioned Jimmy Dore in part of the whole thing when he made a situation and when he talked about people being upset. But mainly when you talk about the mainstream media and what they're doing, they're late to the game, right? And they're late to the game on purpose because they are funded by Pfizer, Moderna. I have down here in my notes, and there's a lot that's going on. Big Pharma is still running ads nonstop. If you ever watch a football game on a Sunday, forget about it. You know what I'm saying? Now you can get your COVID and your flu shot together, says Travis Kelce, and he's got the Band-Aids there and whatnot. So they're still running ads like crazy. But in addition to that, the media is mainly funded by Big Pharma, right? Like they have brought to you by Pfizer. So when you see networks like Fox start talking about stuff like the vaccine's bad, well, where were they when they first happened? Where were they in the beginning where we were out there putting our necks on the line, right? I mean, everybody's caught in this two-team mentality in the United States, the team sports mentality, that it's very easy to dupe people and show up late to the game. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure they will report what we're talking about right now as it gets caught up and people were saying, hey, what's going on? Or they'll have a guest that will slip and say it that they won't be able to control. But at the end of the day, their bread is buttered by the pharmaceutical companies. And that's why you see even those people who are the fake independent media, they came from the mainstream media that are now trying to occupy this space because they understand that a lot of people in general have left the mainstream media because they don't trust it. Well, they just replaced a lot of these other people. They're trying to replace us by demonetizing, censoring us, shadow banning with these people who come from the mainstream media. But where does their money come from, Matt? Their bread is buttered by who? The pharmaceutical companies.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's what's going on right now, and you'll see the mainstream media. One of the things I did like about RFK when he was running in the beginning, he told the story about when he was talking about the vaccines, how he got a call. I don't think it was from Rupert Murdoch. Maybe it was, or it was what's his name from Fox who used to run it? Ailes, Roger Ailes,
Yeah.
Robert Ailes.
Yeah, Roger Ailes.
When he got a call and said, hey, man, I love you, but I can't play this stuff. I can't talk about this stuff because your shows are sponsored by Pfizer. That was the funny thing about, Tucker Carlson, who everybody bends over backwards to just praise all the time. He was being paid by Pfizer until he was let go. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the networks are controlled by big pharma. That's why it used to be illegal at one point to run commercial ads on a regular basis. I mean, I have eczema, right? And I'm trying to fight it the natural way, but I see a million commercials about eczema all the time, or Ozempic or weight loss, or, you know what I'm saying? They're allowed to do that. They used to not allow to do that. In addition to all these other things too, I want to point out two simple things. Number one, that not only are they running ads like crazy, not only are they sponsoring the shows that a lot of people in the mainstream are watching, they're still operating under emergency use authorization. They still have protection from the government. The shot that has now been passed, I think it would be your 8th or 9th shot, if you shot up every single shot, is under emergency use authorization. So not only are they enjoying the luxury of getting full range, they control the media, they get to run their ads like crazy. They got protection from the government as well. And none of this has changed, right? And a lot of these things haven't even been mentioned by the Trump administration. And some of his cabinet picks are just ridiculous. And I can tell you this much, leading into the story that we're going to talk about more than anything right now, with what was on those bullet casings, because I didn't know that when I went to bed last night. And a lot of the stuff when it came to this particular section, I put into the doc. But I didn't catch that. And when you told me that this morning, it just makes me think of my own personal story that happened just right now. I mean, this is my first show back in a month. The majority of my time, Matt, was spent on the phone. And you know a lot about this, right? Leslie knows a lot about this, was dealing and fighting with insurance companies. I mean, and I ended up one of the last people I talked to after talking to multiple people, getting different stories all the time. And no matter what story I got, claims were being denied to get my mom into acute therapy after her stroke. She's now in a subacute place because that's the only one they would, approve, the only claim they would approve. You get a million different answers. I told them, plain and simple, because it wasn't only just like we can't do this because we don't want to pay kind of thing where they're not talking about it. They claim negligence, right? Like you have, I think it's something in the doc that talks about, I think I put it in there, an article that talks about this particular CEO, his company would have so many clerical errors or, errors and, just on pay. They had one of those with my mom. And because of that error, she had to stay in the hospital an extra 6 days, right? And when somebody has a stroke, the time that is most valuable, most important is right after that stroke, right? Making sure she's taking her blood thinners so she doesn't have a relapse, another stroke. But to repair the mind is to get her into therapy right away. But because of denial of a claim to start with, and then a clerical error after, my mom spent an extra 12 days in the hospital, 3 weeks, which she should have been in rehab maybe after the first week. And I told that person on the phone, Matt, and I'll shut up now because I know I'm speaking a lot. I'm happy to be back and enjoying my time with you, looking at your pretty face. But I told that person, I said, I hope the decision makers who denied my mom's claim and then who kicked this phony last claim, canceled the last claim to start another claim to take another 5 days, I hope that decision maker has a stroke just like my mom and is left for dead. And not only me do I have this story, just look at the responses on the Twitter handles, Matt, and the people talking about this. Like there was a meme, somebody says, this is how people are treating the shooter. And it's like Spider-Man, like he's a hero. This is an issue we have in the United States, and it's not going away anytime soon. So I know what it's like, and it doesn't surprise me that those words were written on those bullets.
Yeah. Well, we need to look at that. And ABC was forced to have to report this part because you can't pretend that this didn't happen. The words deny, defend, and depose were discovered by detectives on the shell casings found at the scene where Brian Thompson, the CEO of a major insurance group, United Healthcare, was gunned down. Police sources told ABC News late Wednesday evening. So this was later into the evening when that came out. This was last night. Now, are they going to tell us what that comes from? No, we got to do that work ourselves. I wonder what that comes from. Could it possibly be a book called Delay, Deny, Defend? Why insurance companies don't pay claims and what you can do about it, by J.M. Feynman. Wow. Coincidence? So that's the part, and it took all day Wednesday to figure out that those bullets had those three D words on there, and then we, of course, had to find this ourselves. And you mentioned, Craig, about the internet's response, and it's like they set this up where everybody's at each other's throats. One side's people that always their instinct is to protect power, and then to bash people that have any sort of that are drawing the connection to, as I mentioned before, 68,000 Americans that suffer from purposeful claims that they should be entitled to, leads to their death every year. This is a CEO, a handful of people that are responsible for this. They're in charge of that. And we don't consider that on the books. We don't consider that murder. We don't. But yet, a guy like this is responsible, literally responsible for that many people not getting the coverage they need, leading to their actual deaths. And yet our instinct is to punch down at people, to draw that correlation and say that we're, like you mentioned, the Spider-Man thing. Like it's, taking the law in your own hands. I know we know about the above the law. No one's above the law. Well, except maybe Batman, that old adage. But there's an idea that you have to somehow, in a vigilante way, take the law into your own hands. So I don't think it's about we're celebrating the guy. I think we're seeing there is maybe a karma factor that comes into play, or maybe an opportunity. Maybe this tragedy leads to an opportunity to have a larger conversation. So if you're on the side of defending this guy and telling people they are not allowed to draw this correlation because it's disrespectful to him and his family, well, then you need to stop protecting power and understand that you are squashing an opportunity that we need to take to have a larger conversation about the dysfunction of the healthcare system, and why even you, Craig, telling your personal story and that feeling you're feeling right now about what you want to do to these people that literally have your mom's life in their hands and could give a holy crap about it. Yeah. That's at some point is a tipping point for people, and they are going to take the law in their own hands. And that's why you see these three words on those bullet casings.
Yep. So, and it's I would also like to interject, because I know we're not going to do the story today, but it's not just protecting power. They're protecting their own pockets. A lot of these people, they understand where their bread is buttered. And you're right, because of the right left divide, the red team, blue team divide, people are just kind of automatically, if they're supposed to be on this side, right, they're going to protect power just because they're pushing back against somebody on the opposing side with a view. Just because it's the person on the opposing side, they're just naturally, prone to push back, and therefore they'll find themselves protecting the powerful. They'll find themselves protecting those that they used to hate. I mean, and nothing's more clear when it comes to the COVID-19 situation, where you saw people on the left who were in the streets marching for Medicare for all, and they knew who their number one enemy was. They knew it was the pharmaceutical lobby. But after, the vaccine was coming out and we had the COVID-19 situation, since Alex Jones was anti-vaccine, or these other people on the right were mostly anti-vaccine, they automatically, became pro-vaccine, Mm-hmm. And I will tell people out there and encourage them, as we get into this whole situation, when you talk to somebody who's going to be pushing for these vaccines, the first thing you should ask them, what's in it? What's in the vaccine? See what they say. They're literally pushing a product. They have no idea what is in it, right? So, I mean, this is what we're faced with, and this is what we're talking about. And I would also say, too, as well, when it comes to this whole situation, You do have people like Peter Hotez out there who are pushing for more of the vaccines and what's going on. I mean, everything is tied together. This particular CEO, he's working on the same team as Peter Hotez. This particular CEO, when he took over, and he took over right after COVID, was known for upping the denial of claims, using AI to look and scout whatnot and make these decisions and stuff. And they do make it hard, Matt. I would get on the phone. I would try to get a representative that would know something. I'd be speaking to somebody in Bangladesh, right? And it was just an automatic no matter what. And I went to floor after floor after floor in the hospital because there's caseworkers on each floor, and they would roll their eyes when they would hear, oh, Humana Advantage Plan? No, they should call it a disadvantage plan. But this is what we're faced with. This is what we're looking into. And to see so many of the people, right, like the Cranstonsteins, and I forgot his name, Encore Rapport, whatever, all those guys. This is terrible that people are praising this. No, shut the F up. The insurance companies are liable and responsible for so many deaths in this country right here, right now, simply because they said, no, we're not going to give you the treatment they want. They have a whole channel on DirecTV here in Florida dedicated to Humana just selling their Advantage plans, which means you're opting out of Medicare and opting into private insurance. They now hold your parents' life, your life in their hands if you sign into it, and they've been guilty as FUDGE, fudge. So when people see this, I would have to disagree somewhat. Like some people are praising this guy, right? Not just the karmatic point. They're like, good. I wish more of this would happen. Like the CEO of what company is now denying coverage of anesthesia? I mean, we have that in the doc, right? I mean, that person, I can't remember her name. She better be watching out, right? Because they're posting her name everywhere out there.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, I saw they're posting. Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Yeah, let's go. Let's bring that one up. This is, and I get it that people are like, wait a minute, you're going too far. Is this too far? I guess that's the question. To post this, is this too far? Taylor Lorenz post, it's Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah.
They will know, this is the one. They will no longer cover anesthesia for the full length of certain surgeries in Connecticut. So is this going too far to just post who's the CEO? It's not like she's given an address or anything like that or blah, blah, blah. But I understand it. This is controversial. However, it's just pointing out facts. This is another company, again, that's depriving people of their care. More people are going to die. And this is the person who is the CEO of the company. So, be angry about that. Okay. But these are just facts that are being posted. So this is where we are. This is what we've come to. And I think there's a good opportunity right now, Craig, to kind of maneuver into the number one story. Because like you said, everything's connected, man. It's all connected. It really is. Because now we're looking at the rise in cancer rates, the rise in heart conditions, heart problems, died suddenly. Doctors are baffled. We're looking at blood clotting. We're looking at myocarditis. We're looking at all this stuff that randomly over the last 3+ years just randomly spiked. We don't know why. We have no idea why, but we know what it's not. Well, not so fast. We might have some idea right now that we have some real, come on, let's load this. Let's go. Oh, man, StreamYard. That should come up. Are you seeing it?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not seeing it. Okay. So this is, okay, there we go. Immediate moratorium on COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. This is all of the people behind it. The McCullough Foundation, as we know, Peter McCullough, a friend of the show. All these groups are on board with this. This is after this new study that came out. And let's see, this is the magazine, the Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons, definitely peer reviewed. All this information, I'm not going to get into the details of it now, but you guys are certainly welcome to look it up. But there's been a general consensus of everybody involved with this. And there's some more very shocking. Well, some of us aren't so shocked because some of us knew this was already a theme. These conversations, we've been having these for the last 3 years or so. And now it's being reported in these carefully done studies We're seeing we know about the SV40. We know these are cancer-inducing promoters, enhancers. So once we can see that it's actually in there, and like you asked the question, Craig, earlier, when we should ask this question to people, say, hey, do you know what's in it? And they really don't. Well, now we can kind of show them this. I think this is the time we show them this, because this isn't a joke. Anybody in the medical arena right now that's continuing to push this on people, knowing that this information is right in front of our faces, we can see it clear as day. This is certainly crimes against humanity at this point. If this thing isn't cut off right now in any way, shape, or form, there's no excuse. There is no excuse for this to be offered, to be suggested. No doctor in this country and anywhere in the globe right now should be asking patients, have you gotten your new COVID shot? That should not be a thing. And if you're doing that now, you are intentionally bringing what I would say crimes against humanity. That's where I'm at right now. And we've known this the whole time, but at this point, you can't ignore it. It's right in your face.
And it's still going on, even in like states like Florida. Like literally when I go to check in to my mom's rehab facility, they ask me 6 questions about COVID. Have I had a fever? Have I contracted COVID? You know what I'm saying? Like I had this sign of do not consent. Like the first night I got into the hospital, my mom's first night, I said, don't you dare put any vaccines in my mom's body. Don't you dare give her remdesivir. Don't you dare try to put her on a ventilator. I am the power of attorney. Here are the paperwork. Do not do anything without me and my sister's consent. We get her over to rehab 3 weeks later. When I walk in there, same thing. They did a COVID test immediately. I'm like, what do you want to check her blood pressure or this and that? No, they had to get the COVID test out there first. And I said, we do not consent to any flu shots, COVID shots, vaccine shots, none of that stuff. We are the power of attorneys. Don't you do a damn thing to my mother without my permission. This is going on. And we're in Florida, guys, right? Florida was supposed to be the beacon where on that list, you saw the Florida Surgeon General, who once he came along, then DeSantis got in line with all, this was politically expedient for me if I go and switch and push against everybody else. Yeah, then I'll go along with it, right? Like, because before that, he was encouraging people to get the shot. So, I mean, this stuff is still going on. It's not going to stop. And you're right. Like, this is the problem I have, Matt. Remember when we were just in Chicago at the DNC, right? And Max Blumenthal went in with Wyatt. We did our own thing that day because they were going in there. Max Blumenthal is able to see somebody, know what that person's guilty of, and start questioning that person on that. To me, it's just a blur right now because it's just like business as usual. Like they got away with it. They lied. You know what I'm saying? And by the time anybody's held to account, they'll be moving on. They constantly, when you catch up, and it's like what I was taught about one of my first election integrity. What do you call those? Mentors. When they told me it's like a spider web, right? Like there's many ways in which they can go after and cheat elections. So once you catch on to one thing, they're on to the next. And then nobody's held accountable because they're just constantly moving on. That's what they're doing with the COVID situation. That's why Hotez is out there to come out there and say all these things like these things are coming along because we live in the United States of amnesia and people are just going to move on. And COVID wasn't just about a virus or a vaccine. It was about rearranging society to gain more control for the elites, more track and trace policies, more controls to say, hey, if you don't listen to us and when we mandate this, we'll take things away from you. And they were able to get away with it. Yeah, you'll hear stories here and there like, and you'll think, oh my God, justice is served. No, it's not. The economy is different. The way we do business is different. I mean, there's going to be a real estate crisis when it comes to office buildings because the way business is done now, people don't go into work anymore, right? So there's going to be banking issues that are going to lead to one thing and nothing because they rearrange society, especially in places like Canada, New Zealand, Australia, where you have to have these QR codes. And guess what? All your leaders, including Lula in Brazil and all the people over here in the United States signed on for vaccine passports. So it's not just about a vaccine and a virus. It's about rearranging society for more control for the elites and less civil liberties for you.
Well, that should do it for top censored news
of the week. Sorry. That was my key.
All right, I'm here. If you guys just joining us, coming in late, or you've been here today for the show this afternoon, I'm here with co-host Craig Pasta Jardula. We're doing it from coast to coast today. Great packed show today, guys. A lot more content coming up. I think we might be ready to introduce our special guest today?
He ain't
You
that
want to?
special.
Well, we'll say yes. No, he's very special. Very special. Come on now, don't shortchange it. Uh, Craig, do you want to do the honors? Are we good to go, or do you want to? Are we?
No,
Any
you go
other
ahead and do it.
announcements
I'm
first?
going to sit back. Like, listen, I'm still catching up on a lot of things. So, as I've been in the hospital, taking care of my mom, talking to insurance companies, talking to therapists, trying to figure out a way forward for my mom and what's going to happen. So I kind of had a backseat a little bit to everything that's going on. So I want to have the mentality where I'm just going to be sitting back and learning and listening today. Of course, I have my opinions because, just like the COVID situation, Matt, it's like we know it ain't, right? We know it's so many things that happen to me like it's just a blur. Like if I were to see Amy Klobuchar right now, who follows me, by the way, woo, cool, I wouldn't even know what to go after Amy Klobuchar for because I just know that she's takes money from the wrong people and she's corrupt. Same thing with the healthcare industry and the people who run it in the media. I don't know exactly what's going on for each thing because there's so many things that are coming. They're corrupt. So I'm going to have the mentality of sitting back, listening, and learning today. So I would love it if you would introduce, because I've introduced this clown so many times before, and I only call him a clown because he's a good friend and I love the dude. So you go ahead and do it.
No, we're absolutely. Well, I'll take it. I'll take it from here, Craig. And what an opportunity it is today. Yes, we are very, very happy today to introduce our next guest. He is a journalist, political analyst with the Center for Political Innovation. He's an innovationist and American patriot. Love this guy. Please welcome back to the show, Caleb Maupin.
Hello.
Hey, Caleb. Hey,
How are you?
Welcome back to the Homeless Left. It's good to have you here with us today, Caleb.
Sure, glad to be here.
So you've been on a roll lately. There's some stuff we want to get. There's a lot of stuff we want to get into today. We got the Trump. I know you have the video letter to Trump. I want to talk about that. We have the Hunter. We're calling it Hunter Gate. Kind of some of that drama. Mainstream coverage, what's been going on there. We know Ukraine war stuff is being, or the Ukraine origin stuff is being covered up, and we see that it's as clear as day. So we're certainly seeing the psyop by the media there. But we've also seen some stuff going on in South Korea. We know you definitely have the reputation and the expertise to break some of that down with us. I could start with any of the three. Where are you at? Actually, let me ask you, where are you at? What do you want to dive into with us? Because we take this opportunity with you here with us to break stuff down for us and have a thoughtful commentary. You're not representing any, political, party just like us. It's just critical thinking here on the homeless stuff. So where would you like to kick off today with us, Caleb?
Well, that's hard to say because they're all connected. All three of those topics we're basically talking about the same thing, which is that there is this permanent war lobby that has taken control of our government and it's losing. And the American people are tired of it. They elected Trump because they're tired of it. The people on the Korean Peninsula are tired of it. And it's very corrupt and Hunter Biden's tied into it. So all the topics you listed are all deeply connected to each other. But at the same time, there's nuance to all of them. So maybe you want to start with South Korea? Shall we start there?
No,
No.
Let's get rid of the easy pickings first. Let's get rid of the Hunter Biden because we're going to have a ton of questions about South and North Korea. I'm sorry to throw the monkey wrench, but no, I want to hear your opinions on Huntergate. That has been a phrase coined by my good friend Matt Weinglass over here. Huntergate. There's so many things to talk about, and I think that will lead into the whole, Ukraine. The first question I have for you, you said it's taken control. Hasn't it already always had control there, Caleb?
Well, sure. But at this point, there is so much outrage from the American public. Joe Biden's administration is going to go down in history as one of the most obviously corrupt administrations that we have ever seen. They promised they wouldn't pardon Hunter, and there you go, they did. And they tried to justify it, watching the White House press secretary try to explain that one of, oh, well, we weren't going to, and then he changed his mind, and oh my goodness, it was hilarious. But we all know that Hunter, his corruption long predates the Biden presidency. You go back, talk about 2014 after the USA overthrew the Ukrainian government. Hunter conveniently got a job working for a natural gas company in Ukraine, even though he had absolutely no experience with natural gas and with the energy industry. And he was getting a really nice paycheck every month from Burisma Holdings. And then a prosecutor started looking into corruption. And Biden then bragged to the Council on Foreign Relations about how he got that prosecutor fired and he put aid to Ukraine on hold and said that money is not coming through unless this prosecutor is looking into this company that hired my son, unless they're fired. And I can put this in the context of American politics. Both of our major parties have their strengths and weaknesses. The Democratic Party, their strength has long been that more Americans agree with them. More Americans tend to agree with the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. But their weakness has always been corruption. They have always been the party of the urban political machines, right? Go back to Tammany Hall in New York City, the Rizzo machine of Philadelphia, the Daley machine of Chicago. They have always been the party of corrupt urban machines, and people don't believe what they say. The Republicans tend to be rather extreme in what they believe over the years, but people trust them more, right? They mean what they say. They may say things we don't agree with, but they mean what they say. But the Democratic Party has always been the party of corrupt urban political machines, and Joe Biden is so much a product of that. I mean, go to Wilmington, Delaware sometime and look at how the people there are living, and then put into the hopper that almost every major corporation in the country is headquartered in that city. There's a single building where McDonald's and Walmart and every company is headquartered because it's a giant tax haven. I mean, it's so ridiculous. You go down the line, Biden is just like the walking incarnation of corruption. I believe Hunter, not only is Hunter at the center of all these scandals, we know all about his laptop that the FBI covered up during the last election and everything. But Hunter's a painter. Have you heard about Hunter's painting skills, right? That
I made a bid on one, but I lost.
So. Yeah. I mean, Hunter, the son of the president of the United States, is just a really good painter, and people have been paying $500,000, for these paintings that he does. I mean, it's just so obvious. For a while I found a recording of one of the rare interviews of Al Capone, and I put that next to the voice of a Hunter Biden, and it just sounded completely perfect. I mean, Hunter Biden is just everything that the American people are disgusted by with the political establishment. So, yeah, that's my reaction to that whole thing. And
can I make a statement though, Caleb? And I want you to first of all, I think that right now, coming out of this whole situation, look, and I know a lot of people when they saw you make the video about Donald Trump and your banner and whatnot, and I've been to a symposium. I've covered a symposium, and this is a lane that you occupy that a lot of people wouldn't take. So I understand why, just seeing those people who want reunification in North and South Korea, they want that line gone. There's family members that want to reunite. I can understand. This was the one area I think where Donald Trump did something where it was truly amazing. Seeing him with Kim Jong-un was great, but it was even more great, and I even cried more a week later when Moon Jae-in went and met with Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un was like to Moon Jae-in, well, why don't you come over here? And Moon Jae-in was like, and I want to park that for a second, because I think there's a difference between the current leadership right now that's in power right now in South Korea compared to the Moon Jae-in government that was there before, who were more about unification, peace, and the peace pillars. And we'll get to that. But the thing about it is that I think that we cannot forget sometimes, and I think now it's time, it's all on the table, where I'll be pushing a lot of my leftist friends like yourself, where we have to recognize that they're one and the same. There is no difference between the Republican and Democrat. There's an appearance of difference when it comes to culture wars and certain things, but they take turns playing the bad guys. And I know another area in which you occupied, and you were so good out of the gate of it, where you educated me on it, was one of the first things. And then I went deep diving into the situation with what was going on in the Donbass. I saw you lead a protest in the streets about what was going on in the Donbass and how they were being attacked and bombed, and it was ethnic Russians. But the thing we can't forget is that Donald Trump set the table for this war. There were record contracts from the Pentagon in which the Trump administration gave the Kiev regime, which was mainly infested with Nazis, to go and bomb those people there. So that's why I don't kind of play into the whole thing that he'll end this whole war and whatnot. And when you talk about Hunter Joe Biden, right, which is also connected right here, isn't Joe Biden the real criminal here? Caleb, it's really not Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was doing things at the behest. He was the front man for his father. So I really don't even care so much that he gets pardoned. I mean, I do care because his father wrote the crime bill, and the same crimes that Hunter committed, Joe Biden threw in jail for a lot longer times that were black and brown in the United States, and he didn't give a damn, and none of them got clemency or a pardon. But this is about mostly Joe Biden being the man who's guilty right now, who were taking the Fugazi contracts, who were carpet bombing with Nancy Pelosi's son, Mitt Romney's son, John Kerry's godson, or whoever it was. He wasn't the only one. I mean, Paul Pelosi and stuff. Isn't Joe Biden the real criminal here? And also leading into that, aren't these parties, Trump and Biden, one and the same? Go ahead, buddy.
Well, there's a lot for me to respond to there.
Sorry.
I guess, as far as Biden being the real criminal, absolutely he is. I mean, we know who the big guy was in all of those communications. And it was because Biden was first vice president and then president that Hunter Biden had all the access to make all the corrupt deals that he made. So there you go. I mean, that's the issue. But as president, he can pardon himself, which it looks like Trump will be doing soon when he takes office. He'll be pardoning himself for the the legal rigmarole they put him through in New York and in other states. As far as both parties being the same, the way I see it is that it's not a matter of good guys and bad guys, right? It's not a matter of there's the good team and they wear red and the bad team, they wear blue. It's a fact that whenever you see an opening, you should go for it, right? And I am obviously very disgusted with Marco Rubio being appointed into the government. I mean, there's nobody I could disagree with more. But the fact that Tulsi Gabbard, despite the fact I strongly disagree with her about Israel, the stuff she says about Ukraine, some of the stuff she says about many issues, including Syria, I think is really great. And I think we'd be better off with her being the director of national intelligence. And this new guy, Kash Patel, having him, in control of the FBI, I think that would be a great thing because I see what the FBI has done to the Uhuru movement, right? And, I'm headed down to Florida in a couple of weeks for the sentencing of Chairman O'Malley and Jesse Neville and Penny Hess, the Uhuru Three. So to have a guy who's on record kind of calling to restrain and restrict the FBI, running the FBI, I think that might be a good thing. And I don't want to admit defeat. I don't want to just give up, right, and reduce myself to just kind of standing on the sidelines and complaining about it all. I do want to try to get in the game to some degree or other and push anything we can do to hold off the new world war, the danger of a new world war and World War III, and to stop the march toward a low-wage police state. And, something good happened on the Korean Peninsula when Trump was president. And this current president, Yoon, who is not long for the office, he's in a load of trouble for that martial law thing he pulled. That's Biden's man. And what Yoon spent his administration doing was trying to undo everything that Trump and his predecessor Moon Jae-in did on the Korean Peninsula. And the Korean people don't agree with that. And they've made that clear at polls, et cetera. And so he did this desperate move to implement martial law when he had a 17% approval rating. But what made him think he could even do that, right? I mean, who tries to become the military dictator and declare martial law when you've got 17% approval rating? There's an element of desperation there. And that's what I'm smelling in Washington, D.C. I want to think back to the 1860s. Think back to Abraham Lincoln. Was Abraham Lincoln against slavery? No. He said, you can keep slavery in the South, but I'm not going to play ball with slavery. This fugitive slave law that says if a slave gets free, we have to go to another state and bring him back. No. And the new states that are coming into the country, Kansas, Iowa, those are going to be free states. They're not going to be slave states, but you can keep slavery in the South. I'm not an abolitionist. He got elected on that platform. He was not going to abolish slavery. But that was so much of a threat to the power of the slaveholders to have a guy in the White House who wasn't going to just give them whatever they wanted. They took up arms against him, and we had a civil war. And in that civil war, Abraham Lincoln, who said he didn't want to free a single slave, was forced to abolish slavery. And I think that's kind of a similar situation in that Donald Trump is very much, I mean, his first term in office, he murdered Qasem Soleimani. He was sending lethal aid to Ukraine. He was doing all kinds of things. But on a few things, he's just said, look, I'm not going to play ball with you. And what do they continue? What did they hit Donald Trump with over and over and over again throughout the election? They said, Donald Trump only cares about Donald Trump. Good. That is, I think, our best hope, because he's thinking about Donald Trump not being a team player for imperialism. He's thinking, how am I going to be remembered? I want to go down in history as a great man. I think the reason Trump did what he did on the Korean Peninsula is because he's had presidential aspirations since he was a young man when Richard Nixon was in office. And he admits he admired Richard Nixon when he was a young man. And Richard Nixon is the guy who went to China and shook hands with Mao. And I think Donald Trump was thinking, I want to be the guy who shakes hands with Kim Jong-un. I want to go down as the guy who has a historic meeting and starts the peace process with a communist country in Asia. I also think that there is a difference, though, around the fact that, look, we all know it's only a matter of time before North Korea gives up their nuclear weapons. And when they do, it's going to be a bonanza. Because North Korea, because of the sanctions, they already make all of their own cell phones in-house. They can't import cell phones because of the sanctions. And those mountains in North Korea are full of minerals. Minerals that used to be worthless 10 years ago, 20 years ago were worthless, now are really valuable because of cell phones and computer chips. Most people in North Korea can speak at least 2 languages. And when North Korea is able to join the world economy, there's going to be a huge amount of money to be made. And one of Trump's biggest supporters in going there was legendary investor Jim Rogers. And Jim Rogers said, look, I could make loads of money in North Korea, but I can't. And I would like to invest in North Korea. And I think Trump is thinking, look, if there's going to be a huge amount of money made when North Korea gives up their nuclear weapons, let's be in on making the deal so that America gets some of the money. And John Bolton and Mike Pompeo were trying to sabotage that the whole time because they are part of the American permanent war intelligence community that's saying, no, we hate North Korea. They're the enemy no matter what. And Trump's like, hey, I want there to be a Trump hotel in Pyongyang. I want there to be some Trump hotels along those beaches. And, yeah, okay, I'm supposed to be a team player with Empire, but I see an opportunity here. I'm not going to miss it. And yeah, Donald Trump will play ball with the intelligence community, with the pro-war establishment, plenty, but they don't own him like they own some other people. And I think that the intelligence community is afraid of that. And I think we've got to use this moment to try and push for as much good as we can possibly get. Anything that'll get us inching closer to peace and further from World War III, I think we got to push for. I don't want to give up any opportunity. That's where I'm at.
Well, I think you make some good optimistic assertions about Trump's stance with taking on imperialism. I understand the comparisons to Nixon, having these dialogues, across the globe. But when we talk about not getting into World War III, and we know, we can go down the Ukraine path here and say, obviously, he was looking into that. He wants to have accountability to all of the corruption that the Bidens have done in Ukraine. So we see that, but we're not so sure that he's assigning the right people. Like General Kellogg was assigned as the envoy, the special envoy. How does that make sense when that's a guy who doesn't want to engage with Putin, says, no, we do not compromise, we do not negotiate? How can that assignment make sense? So Craig, I think I'm not as pessimistic as Craig is here, but I got to lean his direction when I say, we have to be cautiously optimistic about Trump's, even before he gets into office. Some of these appointees they're not okay. I mean, you mentioned Rubio, but we got this Kellogg guy. And then we haven't even mentioned Israel, Gaza. And I got to bring this up here, Caleb, because look, I saw your video is awesome. I get it. It's a plea. Please, Mr. Trump, do the thing that you campaigned on. And I think that's how politics is supposed to work. We have to challenge the people that we elect, especially the people we give money and vote to and get them in there. They have to do these things. So I appreciate your plea to him. Do the thing you campaigned on. But what do you say to this tweet coming up here? And this is so he's bringing up the hostage. He's saying this is a threat. Donald Trump, post this. Everybody is talking about the hostages who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East, but it's all talk and no action. Please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as president of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East. And for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity, those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the U.S. of America. Release the hostages now. I can't understand how anyone can interpret this as anything other than a threat. How can something like this lead towards peace and not nuclear annihilation or escalating, at the minimally escalating our war presence around the globe? Please explain this to us, Caleb.
Well, I'll tell you how I see this tweet. This is a tweet this is Donald Trump basically inviting Hamas to do him a huge political favor and give him a Ronald Reagan inauguration day. That's basically what he's saying. He's saying, Hamas, make my day and give me a huge political favor and release them the very day that I take office. That's what it is. And that we know neocons and conservatives are reenacting the Reagan presidency in their head, constantly. And they're thinking about, Reagan was such a tough guy. The Iran hostages were released on the very morning he got elected because they were so afraid of him. And Trump is saying to Hamas, if you do that for me, you're gold. And that's your opportunity. You can give me a big boost. Make it so the day I take office, they release the hostages. That's Trump offering that. And we know now about the October surprise and what went on and how Reagan's campaign was basically in touch with the Iranians and said, don't release the hostages until I take office. That'll make me look good. Right. And I think there's some attempt, some hope that Hamas might boost Trump in that way. And that's what I see that as.
I gotta say this much. Matt, did you have something to follow up there?
No, go for it. Go ahead.
I have to say this much, that I get it too as well. I want to point out, disclaimer, that I still think that, when people start talking, especially now with my libertarian friends who are, so against Donald Trump, and now they've completely capitulated to him, even though they had a candidate who was an anti-Zionist, who wasn't for government mandates, and they wanted to twist everything. I mean, they did it for their own benefit, their own pocket. I mean, they're the definition of grifters, right? Really, to tell you the truth. And I think they did a lot of good for Caleb's cause, as far as being a communist more than being a libertarian. Like, you know what I'm saying? They just prove they're not even libertarians. They're a libertarian wing, the libertarian caucus of the Republican Party. They're Republicans. End of story. So I just want to point out that really quickly, that when it comes to what Caleb is advocating for, I think it was Donald Trump's best avenue. His best accomplishment was when we had a lot of people on the left going, how dare you go sit down with Kim Jong-un? You know what I'm saying? They liked when he was going, Rocket Man, you have a button, but my button's bigger. They liked that. But as soon as Donald Trump went over there, they'd be like, oh my God, what are you doing? What's going on? And that, to me, was an example of how we should be doing business on a foreign policy level. We need to compromise, right? We need to sit down and talk to these people. We don't need to sit there and threaten them. So I think it is great. However, there's too many things, and this is the quagmire we're stuck in here, Caleb, is the fact that I do believe Donald Trump wanted to do business in Korea, because there was manufacturing that could be had there. There were those minerals you talked about years ago that weren't worth anything then, but are worth so much now, even worth more than what's in gold and stuff. So there were so many opportunities. But you look what Nixon did. Nixon was a globalist, and he sent Kissinger over there to do business because he wanted to plug in China to our economy to make our goods, whatnot. And that's also, remember where Kissinger, who he catered to, who he taught, who he made, was Klaus Schwab, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, Klaus Schwab was Kissinger's, protege. So when I see these situations, I get so nervous. I'm like, we got to be careful about what they're really wanting us to do. And it is a quagmire, because how do we take these messages when a politician does something good, even though their motives might be different and they're not, showing their motives up front? It might be different than what they're saying. I mean, they're politicians. They lie all the time. How do we take these messages when Donald Trump does something good and we carry it along? It's been a quagmire of mine to figure it out. RFK, a deeply committed Zionist, right? Like everybody else in Donald Trump's cabinet, which is something we have to notice. They're deeply committed Zionists. You talked about Rubio, but I think his attorney general, Hesketh, was replaced by now, Ron DeSantis, deeply committed Zionist. And you can't be against censorship when you're a deeply committed Zionist, when the guy has anti-BDS laws over here, right? That you can't even do that. And he wants to shut down these protests. You don't see a lot of protests in Florida because the laws are in place. They can shut them down and start arresting people like that. So the quagmire is, number one, we have to recognize that if they are promoting these deeply committed Zionists, which, by the way, breaking news, not so breaking news, but in case you don't know the Zionists are the globalists. They're one in the same. But how do we take the message of when they do something good and move it away from them and carry that torch ourselves? That is the quagmire we're facing, because Donald Trump's greatest achievement foreign policy-wise, you might even say across the board his greatest achievement, was what he did in North and South Korea. I want our leaders to talk to these people, but Donald Trump couldn't pull it off completely. He couldn't stop the drills, Caleb, when they're mimicking every year an invasion on North Korea. There's a lot of money involved, but that's, I think, what really pissed off Kim Jong-un was the fact is that you're going to come over here, you're going to tickle my feather, and then now you're not going to stop these drills from happening. It's a quagmire. I agree.
Well, the question of Israel and Palestine is going to hang over the Trump presidency like crazy in a lot of different ways, because the reality is, while the Trump, on the stage at the Trump rallies, there's universal support for Israel. That's not true among Trump supporters. And I mean, look at the comments on any Alex Jones video. Look at Candace Owens. Look at even some of the stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy has said. A lot of people in the Trump camp are not big fans of Israel and don't think Israel is doing a great job, and that there is this weird kind of double think. I would say there's a lot more criticism of Israel among Trump supporters than we are even aware of. But the little bit that we're aware of, it trickles through, and we see it. And the other thing is, I don't know if you saw the mayor of Hamtramck, the Muslim American mayor who endorsed Trump, and he said, "I think Trump is more likely to make peace in Gaza than Biden is, and then Kamala Harris is." And also the fact that the Muslim American community largely did not vote for Kamala Harris, right? Because that's the Democrats' line, is that they'll repeat exactly what Trump says on Israel and Palestine. And then they say, look, you can vote for us or you can vote for Trump. And Trump is so awful, so vote for us. And this time the Muslim community in America didn't buy it. And in big numbers, the Council of American Islamic Relations, they've endorsed Jill Stein. And then on top of that, then a number of Muslims even voted for Trump. And so I don't think it's solidly understood that Trump is necessarily the hardcore, endless supporter of Israel he's presented himself as. He was the most pro-Israel president ever. I mean, he did the Abraham Accords when he was president and got certain Muslim countries to recognize Israel. He moved the embassy, like you said. But that said, also, let's not forget that Israel stabbed Trump in the back. And Donald Trump, when he was leaving office, he actually made a number of tweets pointing out that, like, look, I was your best friend, Netanyahu, and you didn't have my back after January 6th. You didn't support me. And, Trump wrote The Art of the Deal. But there's another book that Trump wrote called The Art of the Comeback. Take a look at The Art of the Comeback and what it says about, keeping track of who your real friends are and who betrays you and getting payback as soon as you come back. And I don't know. I'm curious what will happen, right? I got to say, when it comes to Israel-Palestine, my expectations are very low for the Trump presidency. But I see that among his supporters, there's people that aren't fully on board. And I also see that there's some weird signals being sent. I don't really know what's going to happen, right? And I mean, and this could go the other way too. We know that Woodrow Wilson campaigned. His campaign slogan was, "He kept us out of war." And then he's the president who led us into World War I, right? We know Lyndon Johnson campaigned of, you got to vote for him because he's not going to get us into Vietnam. And Barry Goldwater's a crazy warmonger who's going to get us into Vietnam. And then almost as soon as Lyndon Johnson got elected, he got us into Vietnam, right? And that often presidents, do the opposite of what they campaigned for. So I don't really know what we're going to see. But what is making me think that something is going to change with the Trump presidency is the way they have, gone full speed ahead, pedal to the metal, trying to escalate a nuclear war in Ukraine. I mean, with the ATACMS missiles and all of that. Why would they be doing that, if Trump was going to just continue things? And the same on the Korean Peninsula. Why would Yoon, Biden's guy, declare martial law and announce that, there's a bunch of pro-North activities and all this stuff? Why would he do that if he wasn't thinking that things are going to start moving in a different direction very quickly? And so seeing kind of the panic and the desire to just escalate conflict as quickly as possible makes me think that the war lobby is not sure that Trump is completely in their pocket or as much as they'd like him to be. So I don't know. I don't know, but I know I have to try. It is my duty to try as an American. I can't just sit back and there's a meme from The Simpsons I've been referring to, Homer, where old man yells at cloud, Grandpa Simpson. He's like, old man, I don't want to be that. And my job, I see, is to empower people to say, look, if we actually take action, if we actually intervene in the political process, we can make a difference. And so because my job is to try and make a difference, I'm not ready to give up on Trump 100%.
Yeah, no, that's it's fair. It's a fair argument to say that they are definitely people that are scrambling right now. They're nervous. And I think we've always known this about Trump's first term, was that the reason they didn't like him was because every once in a while he told the truth. Every once in a while he wasn't controllable. Everybody else is controllable. Kamala would have been 100% controllable. Biden 100% controllable. So they're spoiled with that. This is what people in power get spoiled with power. They can't handle only 95%. They have to have 100. So what we're talking about is, what can Trump get done in that, even if it's 5%? Maybe Craig, maybe you're more on the 2 or 3% or 1%. But either way, we're talking about a percentage that might affect the American people in a drastic way. If it's just one thing, if it's just maybe taking on big food and big pharma, maybe just one little thing. This is something, and I want both your guys' feedback on this one, because we talked about the pardon earlier, right? So this pardon that nobody on the left seems to care about, because it's his son. It's his son. A father looking out for his son. Oh, well, look what else they're discussing. Biden's White House is discussing.
Can you hear him, Caleb? Or
he's breaking up a little bit. Yeah,
Matt, you're breaking up.
Pardons for those in Trump's crosshairs.
Matt, you're breaking up. Matt. You're breaking up. Matt, you broke up the whole time.
Pardons. Damn, are you losing me here? Okay, let me. Are you hearing me now?
I'll read that. President Joe Biden's senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and former public officials who would be targeted with President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House, according to senior Democrats familiar with the discussions. Biden's aides are deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments, a sense of alarm which has only accelerated since Trump's last weekend announced the appointment of Kash Patel to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics.
Well, I mean, as far as...
We also have, when we go further...
Oh, you don't share this, idiot.
Well, I was going to say, these are the... Well, this is on everyone. Everyone's putting this up. The Fauci, Cheney, and Schiff are all being named right now as people that were going to be looked at to be pardoned.
Sure.
That's happening right now.
Okay. Can I say something?
Go ahead. I'll pass it to you guys. We can discuss.
Okay, you're breaking up and you're very blurry, and I don't like when you're blurry, man. I want to see that beautiful face, crystal and clear. What we're witnessing here, let me just say this right out. This is kabuki theater, right? The social engineers, the ones who have been running this country, the ruling class, understand their audience, or I should say they understand their subjects. They know exactly how to move people and keep them in this right versus left, blue team versus red team paradigm, right? But at the end of the day, certain goals are achieved. And this is what we had talked about. And I know you know this too as well, Caleb, that yes, there's opportunities that are presented when I think sometimes rhetoric is just as good as policy. In other words, a lot of people who were talking about all these endless wars when he was saying that endless wars, and then all of a sudden Trump people thought they were the peace party because every single Democrat in office was for that war in Russia, that proxy war. Not a single one, not even Barbara Lee, stood up against their own party and said, no, this is BS. This whole thing that you're painting on Vladimir Putin is BS. This was a proxy war that we pushed. Boris Johnson has just recently confirmed that we're waging a proxy war, Caleb, a proxy war. That's what we have to do. And we've done it, and we've let the Ukrainians fight with one hand tied behind their back. This is a proxy war. They've said this stuff, right? So sometimes I think the rhetoric is important, but we have to recognize what's going on. And I know for a fact, and I don't mean to deter the situation as we're talking about these particular pardons, because Kash Patel also just showed his whole ass, right? What did he say the number one issue we have to do out there is we have to find out a way to stand behind Israel 100%. Like your devotion to Israel, and I've said this from the get-go, you can't be America first if you're Israel first. It doesn't work that way. And you know as well as I do that they might distract you with this kabuki theater where the Democrats have been so outrageous over the years, right? They're LGBT kind of implementing into the schools, young children's mentality and ideology was a bridge too far for many Democrats back in the days to say, wait, I can't deal with this. Wait a second. I was protecting gay people to be gay adults, not push this in our school. They seem so absurd that you would look at Donald Trump and you would actually say he's the lesser of two evils. But their objective and everybody they're hiring and everybody he's appointing looks at another war, right? And he might be going, oh, I'll end the Ukraine situation on day one. Well, we know, and we've been paying attention to what's been going on the front lines. Since this war started, Ukraine never had a chance. And it's been long but over. And they're just trying to get the last pieces of pennies and dollars for their pyramid scheme, their embezzlement to get to their people right now. They're trying to push that through. People didn't pay attention to FTX when they were sending money back to politicians here in America by taking crypto and turning it around. We have to be concerned about where they are taking us, where the Trump administration is taking us. And everybody he has appointed or hired is a deeply committed Zionist with eyes pointing towards Iran and a war with Iran. And that needs to be the number one issue that we put on the table, that's what we want to stop moving forward. Go ahead, Caleb.
Well, I have said, and sometimes I feel a little bit like a fool saying this because it may just be the most pointless, ridiculous long shot ever. But if things are going to get better between the USA and Iran, what has to happen is Donald Trump has to apologize for murdering Qasem Soleimani. There's no way that anything between the USA and Iran can improve without at least some kind of apology, because that was such a cowardly, act. I mean, the guy was lured to Iraq to have peace talks. He met to negotiate peace. And then he was on his way to the airport and they gunned him down. It was cowardly. And Donald Trump needs to come out and he needs to say, look, I was given bad information. Mike Pompeo urged me to do this. They told me this guy had killed Americans and all of that. I didn't know what I was doing. And there can't be any improvement between the USA and Iran, unless that happens. But I'm also concerned when you talk about Iran and the FBI and Zionism and all of that. One thing that really concerns me is, Donald Trump, he'd had 2 assassination attempts on the campaign trail. Putin says Trump is still in danger. Right. And Putin knows his stuff. I mean, this is a guy who comes out of the security services and all of that. And they're already trying to tell us that that Iran did it. Right. I mean, they've already basically got it all set up that if something were to happen to Trump, they would immediately blame it on Iran. And they're setting the stage. Oh, Iran is trying to kill Trump. Well, look at what's right in front of your face. Ukraine tried to kill Trump. Ryan Roth was a Ukraine guy who was in Ukraine, had been working with the U.S. government in Ukraine. Ukraine tried to kill Trump already, and no one's talking about it, but they're playing up this idea, Iran tried to kill Trump. And it looks to me like they, if something does happen to Trump, they've got it all set up to blame it on Iran. And that scares me a lot. I'll just tell you that much. That scares me a lot. And I don't think Iran is that stupid. I think Iran, yes, a lot of them really do believe that, look, you killed one of our national heroes. You are a criminal. There's a lot of hatred for Trump in Iran. But I also think they're not stupid enough to want to, get American troops, involved in this conflict and escalate things that way. I don't think Iran would try to, remove Trump. I just don't think it would be in their interest. But that said, the FBI is all ready to announce it was Iran if something happens, and that scares me a lot. The other thing, though, is that, the FBI, they're the ones that made sure the Hunter Biden laptop story didn't go out, right, in the last election. And I guess Kash Patel and then now Matt Gaetz is also they're going to be investigating the FBI. And, they feel the FBI meddled in American politics to prevent Trump from being reelected in 2020 by suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. Right. And so, there's some weird stuff going on. And, the FBI is a strange entity. A lot of people think the FBI is just the feds. It's the federal police. That's not true. We've had federal marshals in this country since the beginning. Right. The FBI is a special wing of the federal government and the Department of Justice created for J. Edgar Hoover that was kind of a political fighting force. It was the anti-communist fighting force that started in like the 1920s. J. Edgar Hoover was this congressional librarian who was really good at giving speeches about how evil the communists were, how evil the Reds were. And then Mitchell Palmer, the attorney general, gave him a special wing of the government to go after communists. And then in the 30s, they started doing weird stuff around bank robbers. They had like radio propaganda programs where J. Edgar Hoover was the hero going after bank robbers. And they've blackmailed presidents. And the FBI is very much like its own center of power. It's like a self-serving institution. People compare it to like a military order in the Roman Empire. How in the Roman military, there were certain military orders with their own beliefs that were kind of served themselves and could threaten the emperor and get what they want out of the emperor. You're talking about pardons. I will never forget. I was a kid, but and I don't remember it actually, but I've read about it since. I was too young then. But when Bill Clinton was leaving office, you'll remember Bill Clinton said he was going to pardon Leonard Peltier, the Native American activist who's in federal.
Never did. Yeah.
And he said he was going to pardon him. And then FBI Director Louis Frey got 300 FBI agents to surround the White House on duty. They just, took the day off and 300 FBI agents marched to the White House. And Bill Clinton said, whoops, I forgot about that. Oh boy, I guess no pardon for Leonard Peltier. And Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich, who is the biggest tax cheat in U.S. history. Who was also a Clinton donor. He didn't touch Leonard Peltier. I also noticed Obama, when he was leaving office, he pardoned like everybody. Chelsea Manning, he pardoned a whole bunch of drug offenders, nonviolent drug offenders, all kinds of people, Puerto Rican, activists who'd been arrested, didn't touch Leonard Peltier. And that shows you how much power the FBI has. People are really afraid of the FBI at the end of the day. Leonard Peltier did not kill those FBI agents. There was a shootout. He was a Native American activist. They'd seized a building. There was a shootout. And it's pretty clear to a lot of people who've looked into the case, it was other FBI bullets that killed the FBI agents, right? The FBI shot themselves with friendly fire. But they blame Leonard Peltier for that. And they have decided this guy is going to die in prison. And the facts of the case don't matter. And, he should be freed. Leonard Peltier should be released. So
should Mumia Abu Jamal. He should be released too as well. And this is something as a Assange advocate that I saw a lot of people on the left saying, listen, we understand you saying Assange and Snowden, but why aren't you talking about Mumia and Leonard Peltier? And we have to lump all these people together. All political prisoners are all political prisoners. But let me just say this much, and I'll pass it to Matt if he's got any other questions or what we got going on. But And I mean this in the nicest way, right? Because I do believe what we're seeing is kabuki theater.
Yeah.
When I said the social engineers, and you could track a lot of this stuff back to this company called Tavistock for years. And Tavistock did a lot of work. When it came to what do you call it? When you take an individual and you erase their brains. Help me out.
Mind control. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it called? The
brainwashing. Hypnosis.
No, there was a
programming.
There was but there was a political term, a military term that they
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, right? So they did a lot of the MK Ultra work.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of studying, a lot of doctors. And when Vietnam came along, it was the opportunity to say, how do we take this from the individual and control a society? And a lot of this stuff came for Tavistock. And these are where the social engineers were born. And these social engineers, like I said, they are understanding what's going on so much that in our history, we don't know what is real, what is fake. I think there is a lot of truth to a lot of things that we've been told, but there's a lot of fake stuff going on. And I say this all the time, that The Rock never really hated Randy Orton, right? Hulk Hogan, when he got mad, when he was losing, really didn't get strength because he was angry. And Sergeant Slaughter, who follows, by the way, how you doing, Sergeant? really didn't defeat the Iron Sheik for the glory of his country. A lot of this stuff we are seeing, and this ties into these attempted assassination attempts, because to me, I think it was all fugaziness because Donald Trump himself came out and blamed Iran for trying to assassinate him. And we see a lot of his followers repeating that. So much is set up when you talk about that situation to who he's putting in his cabinet and who he's appointing to that war in Iran. So that's why I say all the time that the social engineers understand their audience. They understand their subjects. And a lot of what we're seeing is to dupe the people into believing one narrative, so therefore the ruling class can achieve their objective. So I understand when we talk about a lot of these things and we see these openings, we still have to remember that at the end of the day, they have a different goal. I mean, I don't know if you ever read Lockstep, the Lockstep document, Caleb, if you should. And I read it early. And when you read the Lockstep document, which I think was it the Rockefeller Foundation, and you read this thing and you're like, oh my God, it's almost like everything that happened in COVID-19 was so pre-planned and so organized so they can give themselves more control. Because I say this all the time, the greatest threat to the American empire or the Western empire and all the Five Eyes country, the greatest threat, it's its own citizens. And therefore they have to dupe us more than anything. So I think a lot of what we've seen right in this campaign with the assassination attempts, with what's been going on as far as making Kamala, they had to run Kamala Harris. They had to run the worst candidate ever. You wrote a book on her, for crying out loud, right? And we were doing reporting when she was running. The woman didn't win a single delegate in her own state when she was the attorney general coming out of the Senate, excuse me, for crying out loud. So
I hear what you're saying here, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but let me just ask you a simple question. And sure. I hope you don't take offense. I'm just asking you. My question is this. So what do we do?
Yeah. We continue to do what you are doing. We continue to get out in the streets, but we also do it with a cautious and a clear eye of understanding that they are who they are. And if you look deep into policy, you look deep into rhetoric, listen, we could talk about the whole situation where there's a lot of people inside of Trump's campaign that are not Zionist of sorts. He still took $100 million from Marion Edelson, and he was the most pro-Israeli president of all times. So we have to do these things. Like I said, this is a quagmire, Caleb, because I don't know. And for me, it's like, how do we – RFK said a lot of great things when it comes to our food, when it comes to how they're polluting our waters. I mean, real conversations about how we should treat Mother Earth, how our food is produced and what's going on. I mean, when he said on Fox News a couple weeks ago that if he becomes the director of HHS, right, that the first thing he's going to do is remove all the processed foods from our schools. That's great. We should do that. But we also have to understand who he is and how compromised he is and how controlled he is by Israel, that we have to understand that it's his message that is most important. In other words, not what Donald Trump just did, but the message of reunification in Korea is more important than the person who did it themselves. There was motives for why he did those things. And
well, that's why we're headed to the inauguration. On the 20th, January 20th, Monday, we're headed to the inauguration in Washington, D.C. We have a beautiful hotel that we've rented near the White House, and we're having a reception. And we're taking our big banner, "Only Peace Can Make America Great Again," Trump and Kim shaking hands. We're taking that to the inauguration, and we'll be on the streets outside greeting Trump supporters. And we're going to have a reception that night with a lot of nice food and catered and all of that.
Are you joining the Libertarians? I heard Angela McArdle's throwing a little party over there.
Oh, yeah? Is she? Oh,
she's throwing a little party over there, too, as well. You know what I'm
saying?
And
we're going to try our best to engage with people that are in town for the inauguration about anti-imperialism and about, I'm more concerned about the fact that, even if Donald Trump doesn't do a single thing that he said he was going to do, any of the single good things he said he was going to do, people voted for him because they want that. And I want to organize those people that want that. And I want to get to them. And I want to build an anti-imperialist movement in America. That's urgent. And one thing we're going to raise is the peace bridge, connecting Russia and Alaska, right? Now is the time. If Trump actually can reach some kind of deal and end the conflict in Ukraine, we got to start building that bridge to connect Alaska to Russia, because that can pivot the U.S. economy away from the NATO countries. That can pivot us towards the new economy rising in the East, the BRICS countries. And that's an opportunity. So we're thinking we're going to get another banner just as big about the peace bridge connecting Russia and Alaska. And I am more concerned about building a real popular movement, because at the end of the day, I've learned to stop thinking in terms of good guys and bad guys and start thinking about the balance of forces, right? And that ultimately, if we can expand anti-imperialist thought, and we can build a network of people that are good at intervening and spreading anti-imperialist politics in America, who can rely on each other and carry out effective operations to raise awareness, that'll be something that can change the political conversation and could possibly lead to something good. And we have to try. It's not enough. I just refuse to be written out of the conversation. I refuse to look. I think one thing that our leaders are very good at, it's a counterinsurgency that they're waging right now, right? It's a classic counterinsurgency, right? They know most Americans at this point think the government is corrupt, don't trust the deep state, don't trust the media, etc. And so they're trying to make it a situation where, okay, you can trust the mainstream media, or you can be in crazy land and it's not clear what you're for. That's what they want. They don't want there to be any solid opposition. Right? They want there to be a whole bunch of confused people that are on the outside that don't really know where they're at, that are pessimistic, that are hopeless, that are following this person or following that person. And if we want to build a real alternative that can really challenge the pro-war establishment in America, we need to build something solid, right? And we need to not let them run this kind of manipulated counterinsurgency that they're trying to run right now. And so I've got to try, right? I mean, I feel like it's my duty to my country, to my people, to the future of humanity. We've got to intervene. And so I'm doing my best, despite realizing that a lot of what you're saying is I'm seeing everything you're seeing, and I'm shaking my head and horrified and sickened by a lot of what I'm hearing. But at the same time, you got to try. That's my feeling.
No. Listen, can I just also say too as well, and I hope I wasn't misunderstood, that I do tip my hat off. It's these conversations of what do we do from here, because I know you're very conscious of everything that goes around. I love also talking to Matt Ehret about this too as well, because he's another guy who understands and sees everything that's going on, especially from the Chinese perspective, right? And what do we do? And I think that the conversations are more important than anything else. And I tip my hat off to you, Caleb, for going and taking a try, because I've said this before. Sometimes the narrative is just as important as the policy, because no matter what, there's a lot of people, they play the team sports mentality. And because Trump said it, there's a lot of people who were like anti-Israel, anti-Zionist at one point that are now pro-Zionist, right? Like I talk about my mom, right? Like she wasn't an anti-Zionist, but she would get mad that in Boca Raton that they were allowed to put the candles out for Hanukkah time, but they didn't have little mangers inside the little the mangers. They're called mangers, the Christ mangers. So she would go to all the places in the mall and say, "You got to put a manger here. We're just," you know what I'm saying? And then her husband at the time was a Turkish guy that wasn't too crazy, that thought that all the problems in the Middle East did come from Israel, right? But now it's like, what are you talking about? Israel's our greatest ally over there. We need them. It's love. So they went with Donald Trump simply because he said it with the team sports mentality. But my question to you is this, really quickly, and I need you to answer this question and keep it as condensed as can be, because like I said, next week I'll be doing a live show on WBAI in New York on Wednesday. And the question I will pose to the people out there who want to call in, and I'm going to encourage Trump people to call in. With all that being said, Caleb, can peace be achieved through strength? Donald Trump says it all the time. Is it possible, or is it just more of the same? Your thoughts?
Well, at risk of not answering your question sufficiently, that question raises another question, which is, what does strength mean? Is strength the ability to threaten people with nuclear weapons, the ability to make people afraid, or is strength the ability to see your conditions improve, to have a strong economy that connects with other people, to raise up living standards? Economic strength absolutely brings peace. Military strength, not so much. That's my answer.
Matt, I've been taking too much of the time up. I want you to jump in there and stuff. I'm sorry. Thank you, Caleb. Look, the economic strength, by the way, that's what I loved about RFK when he was running in the beginning, because he says, we gotta take on China economically. That means we gotta change the way we do business at home. That's why I loved about it. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, can you hear us? Are you frozen?
So, yeah, I've been trying to hold it together, hold down the fort with the tech issues here during this amazing conversation. So I don't know if you can even hear me right now. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
No. Sorry. Oh, you can. Okay. No, this has been I've been hoping to chime in earlier. Just we've had these tech issues, but I'm glad
Yeah.
that you guys have been having this. This is
You're
the last
going
4
in and
years.
out
I'll tell you
again.
that the left has not had any sort of. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm just trying to hold this down here. We're just having these issues here for
Now
some
you're
reason.
clear.
But
So get it right now before you
I
get
would just
blurry again. Go for it.
okay. So okay. Okay, getting to the feedback, I'm seeing this conversation is so important. We need more of this. We need more of this discourse about how we hold people accountable. The left hasn't done any of this for the last 4 years. That's the biggest problem, is that when you just champion a side or champion people that you want to believe in without critique, we're all doomed. So the fact that we're having this conversation is the most important thing, and we need to inspire others to be more like this. This is how politics is supposed to work. We're supposed to challenge the people that we elect to do this, to do better. And if we don't do this, then they don't have to do anything. They have to be forced to do something. Do you think that these powerful people just wake up one morning and say, oh, I've decided to do the right thing? No, they have to be pressured to do the right thing. So I commend everything you're doing, Caleb, and you definitely bring an optimism to this conversation here, because we definitely can get a little doom and gloom around here sometimes, just because of every time we wake up, we're like, are you effing kidding me? But getting on the ground, doing the work, being at the inauguration, I'm all for it. I don't know if I have any other question other than can we join you out in DC on the 20th? I'd love to. If we're able to
you're
get
both
there,
invited.
I'd love to be a part of what you're going to be doing.
I'll be
You're
going
both
to Venezuela,
invited.
so I won't be able to. I'll be coming back. I just maybe if I fly into DC, I don't know. I got to see, but I'm going to go to Venezuela for the inauguration of Nicolas Maduro, so I have to do some work out there. I won't be able to do it. And by the way, another announcement. I know you want to join him. There's something I also want to ask Caleb to throw his little hat in the ring about too as well, and we can get him big screen at the end of January. There's an election in Belarus, and Lukashenko will be running to get elected again, right? And I wanted Caleb's thoughts, because that's got a lot to do with things. A lot of people don't realize that the sanctions just aren't against Russia; they're against Russia's allies. And Belarus has taken a lot on the nose. And I have friends here from Belarus that hate Lukashenko. You know what I'm saying? But I know people that they love Lukashenko, and I wanted to get Caleb's opinions about what's going on in Belarus with that election and what's at stake at the end of January as well.
Well, Alexander Lukashenko is wildly popular in Belarus because when the Soviet Union was falling, all the surrounding countries got economically demolished. The 90s was this awful time. Belarus was the one country where they kept universal employment, they kept universal health care, and they didn't endure. He didn't go along with the neoliberalism, and Alexander Lukashenko, he's a strong guy. He's tied in with the military and the security services. And he just said, nope, we're not going to do the whole collapse of the Soviet Union thing. And because of that, he has provided a social safety net in Belarus and economic security that they didn't have in other countries throughout that. And he's wildly popular. And he and Putin have fought before related to economic stuff about, Russia and all of that. But when it matters, when push comes to shove, the Western imperialists want to destroy both of them. And, when it really gets down to it, Putin is not a communist, right? He's not a Soviet-style communist, right? He's somebody, he very much is proud of what the Soviet Union achieved, etc. Lukashenko is still a communist. Lukashenko still holds on to that ideology. He says Marxism-Leninism is the greatest ideology that's ever been invented. He considers the government of Belarus that exists to just be kind of the Soviet Union is still going. Right. And so Lukashenko is a lot more of an old school, full on ideological communist. Putin is a guy who loves Russia and saw how bad the fall of the Soviet Union was for Russia and has tried to kind of pick up the pieces and done a great job holding it together. And they have a lot in common. And right now they're on the battlefield fighting in Ukraine together. And Belarus is a very, very small country. And, every so often they will have a big clash with Russia. But right now they're very close. And the last election, it was interesting because in the lead up to the last election, Belarus was pivoting away from Russia. And, Lukashenko was saying all kinds of critical things about Russia and all of that. And then they tried to color revolution him in his election. And then he said, oh, this is what you were doing. And then he immediately pivoted closer to Russia. And actually, and now he's closer than ever to Russia. And you saw that in the lead up to the last election in Belarus. They very much were, pretending to like Belarus. Bloomberg News ran nice articles about his economic policies and stuff. And the USA was kind of cozying up to Belarus, hoping that they could kind of manipulate them against Putin. But then when they tried to color revolution him in the elections, then he's like, oh, that's what the United States is offering here. Okay, I'm back on Putin's team. And that was how it works. And, it's kind of like with Vietnam. Vietnam, Obama went there and hosted battleships there and was hoping to use Vietnam against China because there's a long-standing rivalry there. But then Vietnam saw what was happening and was like, no, we're not going to fall for this. And, Gaddafi fell for it. Obama really convinced Gaddafi that they were good friends. And look how that turned out. Yep. The USA is just making a deal with the United States right now. It doesn't have a good track record. The Iran nuclear deal didn't work out too well for Iran. The negotiations with Libya didn't work out well for Libya. And that right now, the USA just doesn't have a very good credit score. You make a deal with the USA and then they turn around and stab you in the back. And so a lot of countries are saying, well, if I make a deal with Russia or China, they'll keep their end of the bargain. If I make a deal with the United States, I'm going to get invaded or overthrown. So, this is not good for our country.
Caleb? It's very bad to be United States enemies, but it's even worse to be their ally, right? It's like
Indeed.
And the parallels to me of Yanukovych in Ukraine and Lukashenko in Russia, in Belarus, are so much alike. There are issues between Lukashenko and the Russian government, right? The same thing with Yanukovych. Yanukovych wasn't just a pro-Russian president. He was looking into a deal with the EU and just didn't get a good deal and said, I can't do this because I'm not going to get a good deal and I can't rely on them to hold their end of the bargain. The parallels are so much there, but you're right. What does it mean if, in fact, and by the way, I think the biggest advocate for Lukashenko's election coming up is the United States and their willingness and their wanting to get involved. It's the same thing in Nicaragua. It's the same thing in Venezuela. We're going to go see the inauguration. So many people want national sovereignty. They want the right to control what they do with their government and how they rule themselves or how they govern themselves. They want the right to keep their resources and make sure that it benefits their country. So when you see Nicolas Maduro maintaining power and you see Daniel Ortega when we went to Nicaragua together, which, by the way, I love you, Caleb, because you got us started in our first election there, and we were able to go to 6 elections since in Latin America. It was Caleb Maupin who made it happen. So, yes, even though I appreciate Caleb's Maupin's work, we're also friends. We've partied in Mexico together, too, as well, at weddings and whatnot. But what do you see as an issue if Lukashenko's adversary or his the other party, who was definitely pro-American, I can't remember her name last time, they didn't let, I think, her husband run, so therefore she ran, but she was, she's gone with all these think tanks. She was at a think tank with Jeffrey Pyatt not too long ago. Obviously, we understand that if the opposition gets in power in Belarus, couldn't that spell a big problem and almost mirror what's going on with the Ukraine over there in the situation? What happens if the opposition does find a way to get in power, Caleb?
Well, if they were to get in power, I think that would mean Belarus pulling out of the war in Ukraine. And that's a big deal, obviously. But I don't think they're going to get in power. The country is in a state of war, full military mobilization. Lukashenko is the leader. The woman who is running against him is running on an anti-Russia, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I think Lukashenko's got it in the bag, given the conditions. It'd be like, I don't know, imagine we had an election in the United States like 3 days after 9/11. Bush was on the ballot, and somebody who, shook hands with bin Laden was the other candidate. Like it's not going to happen. I think Lukashenko's got it in the bag.
It's crazy. Like I said, the United States is the reason why these other countries, they win, because it's like they don't want the United States coming. And I talk to cab drivers when I go to these countries. I talk to waiters. I talk to the regular people. And even if they're conservative, and that's the thing, the misconception that a lot of people think that all these countries are just hardcore leftist, communist, socialist. They're not. They're not. There's a lot of conservatives in these countries and stuff, and they don't like necessarily the government. But you know what they mostly say, even those people who are oppositional to the government? We don't want the United States in our business. We don't want them telling us what to do. These people want their national sovereignty. And, I think they declared, we were saying the woman who ran against Lukashenko last time, because I can't remember her name. I think they declared her at that think tank meeting, right, to be the interim president. of Belarus. They said that.
Oh,
I
she
mean,
doesn't have to run. She's already the president then. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Hey, dude, I heard that Juan Guaido has declared himself the president of South Korea now. That
right.
Right.
Well, it's wild. One thing that is worth pointing out is, when I was in Russia, I had a lot of people say, well, Russia can't be a democracy because Putin's gotten elected so many times. They all forget that we had a president in this country named Roosevelt, and he was elected in 1932 and in 1936 and in 1940 and in 1944, and then he died. And then they passed a constitutional amendment to make it so no one could ever run for president that many times. If somebody is capable of getting the job done and really changes and transforms people's lives, they will be in office a long time. And that, that we shouldn't this idea that, oh, well, Lukashenko's been in power in Belarus a long time. Well, that's because he's got the job done and he's made people's lives better. And we have this weird brain worm where if someone's in office for a long time, they must be a dictator. They must be an authoritarian. It's like, well, that could be the case, but it could be that they've just gotten the job done pretty well and people are not sick of them because they know what they're getting and they'd rather have stability than instability. And that, to have a strong, effective government sometimes includes people who have been in power for a long time, who know what to do and how to maneuver.
This is the bane of my existence right here, okay? I don't believe in term limits because I believe if the country wants a strong leader, like I felt in Bolivia, they wanted Evo Morales, like we see in Nicaragua, they want Daniel Ortega. Why Nicolas Maduro was elected, they should be able to do it. The only thing that we need to secure if we want to live with this mentality that a person who does a good job should continue to keep his job is making sure that we have a mechanism, meaning elections, that is fair, that we get to hire and fire those who the people want. And that's why I don't believe in term limits. I don't, because if somebody's doing a good job, however, if we have a mechanism, which is a true, fair, and free elections, that we can hire people who do a good job and we can fire those who do a bad job. Instead, in the United States, we have a mechanism that's so out of whack where we can't even fire people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Mitch McConnell, and Lindsey Graham.
There's a deeper spiritual question behind this, that's lurking behind this, which is that in a lot of the countries throughout the global South that have broken out of the domination of globalism and imperialism, there's a little bit of a different attitude toward the president. He's like the father of the country, right? He's viewed as kind of like somebody who is like the father of the nation. And here in the West, it's like our politics is very much just like mudslinging and scandal and gossip and pornography. And they're all kind of competing to outdo each other and who can just be the, who can please the crowd the most. Whereas in a lot of the countries that have broken out of Western domination, it's almost the opposite. It's like the people want to do really well and work very hard to impress their leader, right? They want the leader to be proud of them and to and it's a very different mindset, right? It's very, very different, and that there's much more of a traditional thing. It used to be that we all wanted in the United States, the president of the United States to be somebody that all the kids would want to be like, to look up to, right? And that's just not the case anymore. No one is saying to their kids, go be like Joe Biden when you grow up. And no one, I mean, with all due respect to Trump, no one's saying to their kids, be just like Trump when you grow up. No one's saying that, right? And that our politics has become so much of kind of a commercial dog and pony show, mudslinging contest, popularity contest, that we've kind of lost some of these traditional ways of viewing things, that are kind of rooted in the traditional family structure and, religion and a lot of these social hierarchies and ways of doing things. And in the West, we've very much embraced this philosophy of liberalism that economically is right wing. And it says, you're on your own, buddy. No one's taking care of you. Just look out for yourself. And socially is liberal. It says you're your own person. You have no obligation to your country, no obligation to your community, to your family. Just live your life as you want. It's your own business. And we've become such an individualist society that we've kind of lost the bonds that hold human civilization together. A lot of these countries that are fighting Western imperialism, they're fighting that, right? They want to kind of hold on to the bonds that draw them together. And that's not traditionally left or right? It's got left socialist aspects, but it's also got economic or not economic, but social, traditional, conservative aspects to it as well. And they see the West as very unstable and unpredictable, as a place where people don't have security and they're not being taken care of.
Wow. Great conversation. Matt, I know you're being consumed with trying and you're freezing up here and there and you're kind of coming in and out. It's like you're in the Matrix.
We've always no. Sorry about that, guys. Here,
it's okay. It's okay.
Can you hear me now? No.
No, you're blurry as can be. You're blurry as can be.
Go take a shower and wash off the blurry. Go.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You got anything else for Caleb?
I'll get that. I'll do that. Man, great conversation. I know happy we were able to do this. You guys, thanks for holding it down. If you guys can't hear me, apologies, but it's been great having you, Caleb, today.
Sure. Always a pleasure. Happy to come back anytime. This is on my channel too right now, so people should go and subscribe to The Homeless Left. Pasta, go subscribe to Pasta, a longtime friend. Matt, good friend. Good work, and we'll be in touch. Down with imperialism. Dare to struggle. Dare to win.
One more question, though.
You got another question? Okay.
No, I got one more question because I figured, like, right now, I don't think that we're going to be able to continue on with the rest of the show. I don't know if Matt wants to try it, but he's coming in and out. He's blurry as can be. So maybe the fact that if you're speaking a lot, we can still share this content out there. My question to you is, do you want to give us an opinion about what you think independent media will be in the future? I mean, for those who don't know, Caleb is working with RT. RT has gotten a big spank in the butt. I know Matt's going on Garland's show soon. Garland, who was a guy who was a contributor over at Sputnik Radio, where I was on his show 2-3 times a week. I did a lot of the other shows. I did the Final Countdown. I got an opportunity to come to South Florida and fill in for Manila Chan when Manila Chan was doing her surgeries for her breast cancer that she had. Wow. She had a fight with cancer. We wish her the best. She has since started a show with, I think it's, what's his name? Not Ted Rollins. Is it Ted? Ted Rollins, from the Final Countdown. I was on that show all the time. Matt just dumped out. But what do you think the state of independent media is going to be like moving forward? We're in a situation, obviously, with RT, they've been punished so hard. They've been demonetized, deplatformed. Merrick Garland announced sanctions, and in one fell swoop, Rebel TV, or is it Rebel Media? I don't know which one it is. Had to stop the Rick Sanchez show, who I filled in for. I mean, Rick Sanchez, the guy has interviewed Castro, for crying out loud. He's legendary in this business. He was legendary same way that Larry King, who got to finish up his career before he went to that big Spirit in the Sky at RT. Ed Schultz, another guy. People who had to go to these outlets had to go to RT, whereas if they couldn't say what they wanted to. They weren't playing nicely in the mainstream media sandbox, so they went to RT where they're able to speak. Number one, can you first off, starting this comment and your comment by making a yes or no answer, were you ever told what you could say and what you couldn't say on RT? Can you explain that first? And then also to kind of morph into what the state of independent media is going to be like, or Russian state media is going to be like in the future.
Well, as far as RT, I always pointed out to people, people said RT was propaganda. Well, propaganda is intended to push one particular view, and RT had far wider variety of views than any mainstream media outlet in the United States. So it was not propaganda in that sense, because it was absolutely, and if you watch it now, it has a wider perspective. Libertarians, conservatives, leftists, it's wide variety of perspectives from many different countries, from many different places. And I always found RT, I was capable of doing work I would never have been able to do at a mainstream outlet. The coverage that I did of Venezuela, the coverage that I did of U.S. elections. I always had far more freedom than I would ever have had at another network. Now, as far as where alternative media is at, I think as I was waiting to come on, I heard you kind of alluding to this. They're trying to control alternative media now by finding certain people that sound kind of like you and I and boosting them and then using them to kind of target and silence the actual dissidents, right? And I've noticed this happens in every sphere. There's libertarians that get boosted and then suddenly cancel and attack all the libertarians that are actually doing anything and are actually standing up for things. There's people on the right in the MAGA sphere that get boosted and then they attack everybody who's sincere, and this happens in our circles as well. And that they're trying to kind of take control of alternative media. And the main way that they're trying to do that is they want people to just be passive consumers, right? And they want people to just tune in and listen, not be involved in anything in real life. And they want to make it about personalities. They want it to be fandom. My friend Peter Coffin has done a lot about fandom, right? And fandom becomes less and less political over time. It's just, do you like this voice that you're listening to? Aren't you a big fan of him? Aren't you going to buy his t-shirt and be part of his? And that is the danger when you make it about a fandom and not about the message, right? And that's why from the beginning, I've been saying I'm using social media, I'm using, alternative media to build a real organization. I'm trying to build a real organization of people. I'm not trying to build a fandom. I'm not trying to win the internet, because the internet is rigged. The amount of rigging that the internet goes through, the internet is just completely rigged. We have to just build in real life. We have to build in real life. And look, I have said to people, I don't care if my organization is 3 people and I'm streaming from my parents' garage. I'm not surrendering. I'm not giving up, right? I don't know if RT will be able to come back and I'll be able to continue working for RT. I certainly hope so. I'm happy to cover the United Nations. I've got my UN press credential. And if a deal is reached and I'm able to go back to reporting for RT, I'll happily do it. I'm proud of everything I've ever done at RT. I love RT. But if not, does that mean I'm going to surrender? I'm going to back down. I'm going to say, oh, I throw in the towel. I give up. No, never, 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 never. I don't back down. I don't surrender. I've been subjected to a huge amount of smearing, right? On a very personal level. They have gone after me. They have dug into me. At one point, there were people that went to my college with me that I hadn't spoken to in years that called me and said, Caleb, some weird people approached me and they wanted me to write some shit about you. And I'm like, really? Like, I haven't talked to you in years. And it's like, they are desperate to take me down on a personal level just because I was an RT reporter, just because I've been involved in stuff like, the Nicaraguan elections and all of that. But is any of that going to stop me? No. The answer is no. And I know the same applies to you, Pasta. I know that you're not going to give up either. So that's kind of where I'm at. We just have to keep going, but we have to build. And I also feel like the in real life community, that's really important, because that is something they can't rig out of existence with the internet.
I gotta show you something while I am here real quick, while you're there. I was really upset that I never made the Ukrainian kill list. I was like, how come I didn't make it? I got to work harder at this, but if you can give me sharing powers really quickly, Matt, if you're there, I'm going to share this with you right here. So this came out the other day. Wyatt, my friend from the Gray Zone, you can share that there real quick, Matt. It says, Matt, can you throw it up? There you go. It says, Russian moles in the U.S. by Neil Rahasser. And this is interesting because it has this map here. You know how they like to do those little maps? This is the right-wing one. And all of a sudden, somebody told me, look at this down below. Craig Pasta Jardula. Yay! I made it, right? And it was because, and here's the thing, and this is how you know you're doing good. It says because I was close to Michael Flynn. Well, Michael Flynn, along with Patrick Burns, who's also there, you can see him at the top part over there, they threw this thing called the American Project. And it was an election integrity event. And they had me on the solutions panel. And I knew a lot about elections, so they would have me there to talk about what the solutions were. So they got me. I've never really actually, I don't have a relationship. I'm the only leftist on this thing over here, and I'm really proud of it, right? Yeah. Scott Ritter's over there, too, as well. Then in our relationship to Rage Against the War Machine. But that's what they're trying to do. I have yet to go to Russia. I haven't gotten a paycheck from RT. I have done some work independently of them, right? But I've never really worked for the network. I've never met Vladimir Putin. I haven't talked to anybody. But yet they got me on this whole list over here because they're still trying to confuse people. And this McCarthyite type of mentality is still out there.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Pasta. Don't sell yourself short. We know that you and Michael Flynn spend every weekend together at a cabin in the mountains, right? And you always bring Putin in over Zoom to give you your instructions about what to say. I mean, come on, don't sell yourself short, right? I mean, you gotta be proud of your connections. I'm just kidding, but I mean, it's like, yeah, I've seen these kind of maps, and I'm always on there and tied to somebody and all of that, and. Hey, I am really blown away. I met Tulsi Gabbard once at a reception, and I met her once. And then I wrote a book about Kamala Harris, and apparently I know her staff got their hands on it and read it, and maybe that had something to do with something. But this guy, Trevor Loudon at the Epoch Times, he has it in his mind that I am Tulsi Gabbard's secret controller. And I love it. Like, please bring it up. Yeah, that's right. I mean, she calls me every day to get advice about everything. I mean, hey, bring it on, man.
No, I mean, like I said,
and he's writing a book, apparently.
Yeah,
he's writing a book.
That I'm a leftist and I made that list. It makes me think that my work is very important, that some people are onto it and they're trying to diminish our work. Caleb Maupin, ladies and gentlemen, we love him. Go follow his channel. You should be watching it right now. Even though he's on a little bit of a hiatus with the sanctions that Merrick Garland issued, killed us all, right? Like, I was supposed to cover the election. I've been wanting to be, and not that I really compare myself to him, but I wanted to be the Steve Kornacki of RT for election night, and it looked like I had it. I was set to go out to do it with Rick Sanchez, Manila Chan. I think Scotty L. Hughes was going to get involved because she's out there too. She was out there as well. And I was looking forward to wearing my shirt, rolling up my sleeves, and pointing to the board and explaining how elections work and be that guy. And I didn't get the chance because of United States sanctions. But once again, I'm going to wear it as a badge of honor. And you should too, Caleb Maupin. We love you. We appreciate you. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon, my man.
All right. Fight, fight, fight. Never back down. Talk to you soon.
We'll get in touch. We'll have when I get out to New York, and I'm gonna be on the radio next week, right? So there you go. Listen up. I'll let you know. I'll remind you when I'm coming on. I'm gonna be calling it drive time because it's during drive time, and we're gonna encourage those people to call in because we want to have more discussions. And I love the discussion today, man. You take care, brother.
You too. Talk to you soon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right on back. We'll make a decision on what we're going to do moving forward. We're having some technical issues. That was Caleb Maupin. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about Huntergate, which was the whole partying of Hunter Biden. Was it legit? What was behind it? We talked about South and North Korea. We talked about the Ukraine situation. We talked about Belarus. We talked about Donald Trump. We talked about so many things. It was an awesome conversation. I can't wait to go back and watch it because sometimes I rewatch these things. I learn a lot. We thank you for hanging in there with us. We'll be right back after these messages. We'll see you in a second.
Okay. Okay. We are back. We are back. Can you hear me right now, Craig? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're blurry, but I can hear
No.
you.
You can hear me. I'm blurry. Okay. Hey, thanks for holding that last segment down. What a great conversation, you and Caleb. I mean, I had to kind of get into tech mode there at the end. But man, that was some powerful stuff, man. I'm gonna try and edit that edit out the tech stuff, and get for doing that and holding it down for us. So yeah, we might here. Let me come out of the thing and I'll come right back in. Give me 1 second.
Okay. So I guess I'm on my own. Guys, some stuff I want to talk about coming up. Obviously, I will be going to Venezuela next month unless something happens in January. Here comes Matt Weinglass. He's coming back in. He is got the circle of death, the wheel of death. There he is.
Am I better?
Better.
Am I better?
You're better.
Okay. I fixed StreamYard there for a minute. We'll try to do one more segment. If not, we can call it a day. It's all good.
Go ahead, buddy. You're freezing up, and then
okay.
Now you're moving like in slow motion. Who's your internet carrier?
It's AT&T.
Yep. You will cancel them tonight. You will cancel them tonight, and you will go with Spectrum or somebody else tomorrow. Trust me, because that's what's going to take. AT&T drove me fucking crazy, Matt. I was crying when we were doing the combo couch, me and Johnny Tsunami. And eventually when we got rid of AT&T, right, you have to do some investigating and find out what kind of lines do they have. When's the last time they redid it in your area? Are you using fiber optics? And the best thing we could get was Spectrum. And we went with Spectrum after, and we were able to continue doing the show because unfortunately for AT&T, they hadn't redone their wiring in so long, where Spectrum in our area had done some type of rewiring, what you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those situations, and AT&T just doesn't give a fuck. They're terrible.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm gonna try one more thing, and then we're gonna probably have to log off here. Let me just give it one more attempt. Let's see. How am I now? No? Any better?
How
am I now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you just went from blurry to clear, blurry to clear.
Blurry,
that's
clear.
In the StreamYard. So
wow.
Imagine what it is on Rumble. Let me look at it on Rumble. Hold on.
Yeah, check out. How's Rumble looking?
You're blurry.
But how's my? You can hear me? Oh man,
this just went to your clearest. I've seen you in a little bit. You're now clear.
Okay.
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 Go for it. Go for it.
Look. Okay, we're gonna try one more segment before we're out here. And this is one that I know we started last week, and it seemed to be seemed to work well. So we're gonna keep doing this segment. It's called "We Know What It's Not." So yeah, this was definitely something we needed to do again because more incidents have occurred just in the last 6 days since we were on live with you guys last Thursday. So I'm going to play the intro, and we'll get to this, and hopefully this works. So yeah, bear with me, guys. Here we go. It's time for another episode of We Know What It's Not.
But the virus stops with every vaccinated person.
But this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
The conspiracy theory about this related to vaccine, you're right.
We had to really move at the speed of science.
It's time for We Know What It's Not. Let's get into the incidents that have happened just in the last 6 days. We'll check out this first one here. New York teen Connor Kazin dies after collapsing at hockey game. Long Island community is grieving a high school hockey player's sudden death. Connor Kazin, a senior at Pequea High School was playing with the varsity team Saturday night in the town of Oyster Bay Ice Skating Center in Bethpage when he lost consciousness on the ice during an intermission, according to Nassau County Police. People at the game administered CPR until first responders arrived. Kaysen was taken to the hospital, but he didn't make it. Police said it's unclear what caused the 17-year-old's death, and that an investigation is ongoing. Well, we're not holding our breath on that investigation or the autopsy because we never seem to get that information back very quickly these days for some reason. And yes, it's very unclear what caused that. Let's see. Oh, we got another one. Bob Breyer, former drummer for famed rock band My Chemical Romance, has died. He was 44. No cause of death or further information on Breyer's passing was immediately available. That's interesting. That's that they have no information either on what happened. Very, very interesting. Let's see what else. Oh, Eminem's mother, Debbie Nelson, dies at age 69 after lung cancer battle. I wonder how long that battle was. I'm sure it was many, many, many years, or perhaps it wasn't. It looks like, that the representative Eminem confirmed last night, December 2nd. This just happened, guys. Cause of death was given as complications from lung cancer, looking like possibly a rapid lung cancer situation here. We don't have any other information at the time right now. Oh, no, we have a former world champion dying at 46. Former world super bantamweight champion Israel Vazquez has died at age 46. It was announced in November that the Mexican, who was nicknamed Magnifico, had been diagnosed with cancer in November. Wow, I guess that would maybe that would constitute as rapid cancer. I don't know. I don't know, Craig. Oh my gosh, a former assistant coach, Dana Demel, dies at 62. Wow. Let's see. This one also hard to tell what happened to him as well. So man, I don't know, man. They just keep coming. Oh no, this one just happened last night. There's a hip hop duo. It was called We Papa Girl. One of the rappers, age 55, has died as well. This was last night out of the UK. The statement from the family says, with great sadness, we announce beloved sister and mother, Samantha Lawrence, passed away on Sunday. We found out yesterday or last night, but this happened on Sunday. They just reported it last night. Still, this is a secondary cancer that was diagnosed this year. Sounds like another cancer situation. Craig, there's been so many of these and they just kind of get filed away. There's one more I have to mention because this one seems to be getting a little more attention than all of them. This is fully vaccinated Fox News doctor Kelly Powers, who had survived an on-air heart attack, dies from turbo cancer at 45. So she was in the news because she was on a Fox News reporting on health. Actually, in the middle of that health report, had a heart attack on the air. This was back in 2021. Recovers from that, comes back, gets turbo cancer at 45. She is now dead. So this is the fully vaccinated Fox News contributor, Kelly Powers, died Sunday following a series of health problems, including heart failure and a battle with brain cancer. She was an advocate for big pharma, describing drug and vaccine companies as not the enemy during an appearance on Fox Business, explaining that they are helping us. They are creating vaccines. And then this was the health complication in 2020 prompted her initial cancer diagnosis. And then she had the heart thing after that. Cancer was in remission. Now the cancer comes back. It's at the bottom here. Later on, Dr. Paris learned she had glioblastoma. I got to pronounce that one better. An aggressive brain cancer. So that's just in the last 6 days, Craig. But we don't know what's going on with people at all, but we know what it's not. Can you believe this is just in the last 6 days, Craig?
No, I can believe it a lot. I mean, and we've all had situations where people we know, right, taking the vaccines, blood clots that are coming out that are crazy. Blood clots coming out that are crazy. Accelerated heart issues after taking the vaccine. All I know is at the end of the day, there's going to be some situations where this might have been a direct link to the vaccine itself, and some situation might be that the person wasn't healthy, had other complications. But we should not be operating at the situation where we're not looking at this vaccine and allowing voices to come forth and talk about what's going on and why. Why are they still operating under emergency use authorization? Why are they still getting carte blanche to run commercials all the time to hypnotize people? I mean, I knew Republicans, hardcore Republicans, that took multiple shots. You know what I'm saying? So this is not something that's just one side or the other here. This is affecting our society as a whole. And we need to have good studies on what's going on. We should have enough data on those who took the shot and who didn't take the shot, to be able to compare these things. But and every step of the way, Big Pharma, who controls a lot of our government, is not allowed us to see what is actually going on. So it is a huge problem out there that this is going to continue to happen. And until we get a clear, transparent, and I get it, like there is a lot of, privacy that should be allowed for people, what they do with their doctor, but that's not the case. We need to know exactly what they took, what was in these vials, why are they still taking them, why is the CDC still pushing that, and what's going to happen moving forward. We need answers, but to get answers, we need transparency. We need clear data. We need to look at the data.
Well, we're looking at data right now. This is earlier in the show. We talked to you guys about this. This is immediate moratorium that is being suggested, not just suggested, like insisted on now by all of these different foundations. They're coming together on this one study that is proving without a doubt that in the COVID-19 vaccine, there are extreme concern about the mRNA, the level of mRNA, these cancer-inducing elements are seemingly deliberately inside, and they're calling to halt these altogether. And this was a peer-reviewed study. It came out in the Journal of American Physicians and Surgeons. And if anybody, we said earlier, Craig, if anybody is still in the medical field, considers himself a professional in the medical industry, and they're still pushing this right now on patients, saying, did you get your updated shot? Did you get shot number 9? Did you get shot number 10? Did you get shot number 11? You are deliberately committing a crime right now against your patients and against humanity. That's what we're seeing right now, because there's no other way around this. This stuff, if any other product anywhere else in the planet at any other time had this type of defectiveness to it, deliberate or not, accidental or not, if it was a car, if it was a toy, if it was anything that needed to be immediately recalled because of certain elements that were dangerous, that were killing people, or at least at best hurting people, it would be pulled immediately, no questions asked. But for some reason, that's not happening here. And so this is, again, you guys can look this up.
You got a little streak there going.
This is, this is the okay. Are we?
No, you had a little streak there going. Now you're starting to get a little blurry for a little bit. I hear you, brother. You okay. It's frustrating, okay. but yeah. Look, at the end of the day, we need the proper data. I need to get lights on. Can I put the lights on real quick? Are we finishing up, or let's finish on up? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah,
You just went into deep blurriness.
Let me
Now you're back clear again, though. So you're good.
Hold on. I'm going to try one more thing. Yeah. 1 second. Okay. If you can hear me, Craig, come on back. I think we lost your. Oh, there you are. You got me?
Yep.
Oh, am I clear now?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Blurry again.
Amazing. And we got you lights on you now too.
Yeah, blurry. You're blurry though. Bad. Really bad.
Man, it is bad. It is bad. I can't even believe we made it this far.
Let's wrap it up. Okay. Let's wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up. Guys, thanks for joining us today.
Let me do the outro because you're going in and out. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We did have some technical difficulties. We'll have them all worked out. Internet sucks. AT&T blows, but we'll figure this out, guys. Caleb Maupin, go check him on out. There was a lot of great things we talked about. South Korea, Trump. We even talked about Belarus. We had a little fun talks over there. So please join us. We'll be getting going. Like I said, next week on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be on WBAI New York Live, taking phone calls for an hour. Come check that out. And next Thursday, we will also return with a dual stream as well. We have Dr. Ben Marble, who is now going to be coming on the show next week. If you don't know who Dr. Ben Marble is, you better go learn. The guy's been on the forefront of this whole mRNA situation. I am Pasta Jardula. That is Matt Weinglass. Jamie Cheese Slice, we miss you. Good luck to you and your family. We're out of here. The homeless left. Pasta to go. Truth Wire. All the good players involved. Peace out. We love you.